Okay, so this is a recap of our bachata class that we did yesterday. I meant to record it, but as a dodo, I was in a rush to do a million things and forgot to press record. So in a way, this will be good because it'll be a much tighter recap of what we did. So we worked on bachata. Okay, so we began the lesson by using the bachata line dance that we normally use in our line dancing class. The reason why I did that is because I felt it was a really good way to break down basic elements and talk about getting into the rhythm and playing with the timing. So I'm just going to do a little breakdown of this. This will be familiar. So we start with the left foot. We're going to do our side chassé, 1, 2, 3, 4. And I wanted to emphasize with this the idea of not necessarily focusing too much on the tap. That's more of that beginner element, but using a little bit of that hip swing to accentuate the 4s and the 8s. So then we go back to the other side. It's 5, 6, 7, 8. And again, I'm using this line dance because it'll help us discuss more about the hip swing in bachata as opposed to the hip change that we find in cha-cha and rumba and merengue and salsa. So with bachata, we really want to focus a little bit on the hip swing, and we're going to get that by keeping the legs continuously compressed. Okay? So section 1 here, we have our basic, which is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. In the next section, we have a 3-step turn to our left. 1, 2, 3, 4. Take note that while I turn, I stay compressed, and in this case, I did bring my toe in to tap. Why? Because in the next half of the section, we want to be able to point out, in, and glide. And also, we talked about how when we're stylizing, to maintain the continuity of the compression of the leg that has weight, right? We don't want to pop back up. We want to stay low. And so when I point out, see, I'm using a little rotation here to accentuate and give more styling to this as opposed to just pushing the foot out and in. So there's a lot of stuff that kind of comes from using core rotation. And you know I'm really big on rotation of the core and using your core to help facilitate the other parts of your movement. So we have out, in, and even when I glide over, you see I'm staying compressed and I'm rolling into that foot and I'm allowing my core to rotate and collect in. Okay? Then of course we have our forward walks, which I'll just do it from the side profile here so it'll make more sense. So maintaining the compression as well again. So I'm walking 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. The big discussion about the envelope is that, yet again, we want to make sure that we stay compressed in that knee, and when we're bringing this knee up, we're flicking to come back, it's more about the compression of the core, and not so much about the height. I noticed a lot of people in yesterday's class were really kind of trying to bring that knee up, and that's actually not what it's about. It's about creating this circular shape, you see? So even if you keep it kind of low, but then add a core contraction, that's going to accentuate the look. And we see this a lot, of course, in samba, which is a big dance that you see that stylization in, and some salsa and mambo. Okay, so that's the third part there. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. Okay? Then from there we have our half time, which is to step, tap, tap. And again here, rotation. So it's not just about step, tap, yeah? We're going to step and round out the hip to tap, and then round out to switch and tap the other way. So what am I doing? When I'm here, and I'm moving on to my left foot, I'm thinking about kind of pressing my hips back and around, and then kind of bumping that hip forward. Be gentle here, because it's really easy for people to throw out their back if they're forcing that movement. It really is gentle and relaxed and fluid. Same thing when I move to the other foot. I'm pressing the hips back and around as I switch my weight, and then moving forward with the left hip. So I'm going to turn this way so you get a better angle. So I'm pressing the hips back. So again, I'm emphasizing it's hips and not butt. I think sometimes people are accentuating too much the wrong parts of the body, or leading with the wrong parts of the body. Because yes, it does, my butt is going back. It looks like the butt is going back. But I'm not accentuating, I'm not leading with that part. I'm actually thinking of pressing the hips back. And that's going to give you a much nicer look, okay? So I'm rounding back, changing my weight. It's kind of like I'm coming full circle and then accentuating that hip up. Then I press around and hip up. So the timing would be a 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay? And then lastly is that syncopation, which is the big thing of what we were talking about last night, playing with your rhythm. So when we rock back here, like a cumbia step from salsa, also known as a fifth position in other dances, the idea is that you're going to switch 5 and 6 and 7 and 8. And of course I'm lifting really big and dramatically so you can see the way I'm shifting weight, okay? So in essence it's going to be 5 and 6 and 7 and 8. And even more so, I'm maintaining the continuous compression downward. 5 and 6 and 7 and 8. And of course you can see I'm also using rotation as I step back. And you will feel this in your quads. It's a good quad workout, but that's the nature of the style of the dance. And when I move back, also you'll see that I'm rotating this hip. I'm rotating. Now the heel just barely comes down long enough to make contact and come back up. And sometimes that heel won't even touch, right? So 5 and 6 and 7 and 8. And I want to make sure I'm tapping on the 8 because that's the completed section. And now I'm going to start all over again. Okay? So that is, we spent a big chunk of time on that because there's so many cool basic elements, but deeper dives into the timing and the stylization, which is the main thing I wanted to focus on this month, is not, it did seem like I crammed a lot of material, but this is all stuff that is, again, just using basics, but peeling back the layers and using and understanding your basics in a deeper manner. So, just to do a recap of our practice bachata sequence, it is the bachata baby line dance. So all the 4 sections together look like this, and is a fantastic sequence to practice all of your techniques. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Section 2 is the turn. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Walk. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Half time. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 and 6 and 7 and 8. Okay, and then you would repeat again. And of course we did that a few cycles with music. So that was a good chunk of what we worked on. And then I added some other different types of movement, like swivels. So some of you guys have done shadow swivels. Okay, so where the gentleman is shadowing the lady, and she's walking, she's walking, and then hitch back. So that's where that walk comes in. And then there's a walk across with a swivel, walk across with a swivel, and then singles, singles, and then turn around. So we worked on that as an element to work on swivels. But I did both ladies swivel and man swivels, which are really, they're not mans and ladies. They're just, one is a cross swivel, one is an open swivel, which we talked about in our swivels and turns style and technique class last month. So as the name suggests, there are swivels that step across to swivel, across to swivel, and then there are swivels that are open and open and open. Now, for the most part, in dances like bachata, These swivels are usually what the gentlemen are using to kind of add stylization. So they're not doing so much that jivey look, but they are stepping with the thigh open and then just swiveling, stepping and swiveling. So things like shadow swivels, when the lady's doing her cross, the gentleman is actually doing his outside swivel. So, but we both, gentlemen and ladies, did this sequence to practice the swivel technique. So that's what I'm going to just kind of break down here. So we're going to talk about the cross swivels. And in this exercise, you would have the right foot free. And if you were doing this pattern in a couple, the ladies at this point would have the right foot free, okay? So the right foot is free, and basically you're being encouraged to step across. That means you're going to do a little rotation. So swiveling action is essentially just twisting. Now you notice I have to lift the heel a bit. There is no such thing as twisting on the heels. You see, it just keeps you kind of anchored there, and it's really bad strain on your knees. So make sure that you have freedom in the heels here, okay? So you're going to take the right foot across, you will do a little swivel. And again, the swivel's on the supporting foot, right? So you have 1, 2, 3, there's the cross. Now 4 is the twist action, okay? And it is on the supporting foot. We do the same thing going across. 5, 6, 7, 8. And then generally there are 2 singles here, so we have a 1, 2, 3, 4. Now we're going to send the lady, or in this case the follower, to turn to the right to face the gentleman for 5, 6, 7, 8. So if I were doing this with a partner, I would now be facing my partner. Okay? So the whole sequence looks like this, with the right foot going across. Walk. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Sorry, I'm facing the gentleman. There's also the option of turning all the way around for the turn. 5, 6, 7, 8. So if you still wanted to maintain the shadow position, which would be up to the gentleman, always want to make sure that you tap on the 8. So a lot of swivels and pivoting actions in this pattern, okay? So a couple of notes about the swivels. So for stylization, sometimes I see people wanting to flick, and you can stylize this in any way you like. The thing is, you need to be aware of your social spacing. So maybe one day, coming up soon, when we get back together to dancing in real life with other people around you, if you're doing things like flicking back, you really want to be aware, because generally the floor is not sparsed out enough that you can flick without accidentally catching your heel in somebody's shin. So it's generally not a good idea. Not only that, the back flick, it's really more of a tango stylization, especially things like Argentine tango. So it's not that you don't see it, you just don't see it much in bachata. So the swivel action a lot of times is you're just seeing a lot of that kind of really close to the floor. Sometimes you'll see that little hitch up, kind of like that little contraction. 1, 2, 3, and up, right? So you'll see that happening, but just be aware of that back flick. Just in a social setting, it might not work out so well. So definitely work on kind of keeping it controlled. Step, step, like you definitely see a lot of that contraction in your swivels. So again, it's the supporting leg, you see, the leg that has weight, that's the one that's doing the twisting. And you'll notice too, like if my partner were the screen, I'm generally still maintaining a focus towards the front. Okay? So it's not like I'm swiveling, woo, all the way, right? Even in a full-on tango, if you're in closed position, you're still going to be offering some kind of focus towards the partner. Now, if I'm dancing in shadow position, it's the same thing, because the screen would be my audience, or my front, let's say. So if my gentleman's behind me, I'm stepping across and across. So even though my hips are really turning quite a bit, hopefully you can see my energy is still towards the front, right? And I just think in bachata too, it's a much kind of slinky, sexier look to keep those swivels dragging and touching close to the floor. Okay, so those are the cross swivels. And then we talked about the open swivels, which is usually, but not always, more geared towards the gentleman who's leading this particular step. Because in a step like shadow swivels in bachata, unlike some of the other dances, he does not have to do a fake step to be on the same foot. Okay, so he actually can continue just to be on his regular foot. So I'll show you kind of facing and then I'll turn around. So as ladies, we need our right foot to start stepping across. The gentleman will have his left foot. So in this case, the lady would be kind of shadowed right about here. So he's just going to rotate a little bit and take her for a little walk. So he's going to walk, walk, and walk. And with that weight on the left foot, he's just going to swivel on that foot and simply open the thigh there. You see, so there's no crossing involved there. And again to the other side, walk, 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 and swivel. Okay? Now, in this case, sometimes the gentleman can stretch up a little bit, right, just for styling it. And then for the single swivels, he would just shift, swivel, shift, swivel. So I am stretching up a little bit more just to kind of offer a bit of a stronger, more masculine type of styling. So let me do it from this angle here so you can practice along. So I'd have the left foot free, step, across, step, twist, step, across, step, twist, step, twist, step, twist. And then of course, if he would like the lady to turn, generally the man isn't going to turn at the same time here. He's just going to encourage the lady to turn clockwise, and he would just simply step across, step, and tap. And then the lady would be facing her gentleman again. So with the timing, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay, and I'm breaking this down very slowly, and then of course I encourage you to put on some bachata music and try this out, right? So it may even come to the part where, okay, I just have to walk through and figure, even just this part before you do the singles, definitely throw some music on and give it a shot there. I don't think I'm going to turn the music on here because there's always some kind of a delay, so I don't want to kind of throw you guys off with that. So I'm just going to keep it really simple, breaking down the steps. So that was the next thing we touched on. And again, I packed a lot in the lesson. It wasn't meant to kind of memorize patterns. It was using patterns that many of you have already done, but breaking it down deeper and giving you a tool to kind of practice these elements. So like swivels, like stylization, so the swing, hip, swing, and bachata is very, very important, right? So it's not just boop, okay? So that's in the beginning, that's fine. You got to kind of get used to kind of the idea of it, but really everybody at this point has done some bachata, and we really want to use the hip swing. Now again, since I'm talking about weight change, it's again, you're shifting your core and you're shifting your weight. So you see, if I'm showing you what I'm doing here, see, you should be able to see, and I'm being over dramatic on purpose, where your weight is, okay? And then of course now I'm just not going to lift the foot up so much, but as I use my shifting of the weight, shifting of the core, shifting of the core, see, that's where the hip's going to go. It's not that I'm doing this, you see, it's much different. Again, I'm thinking about leading with the butt. You see, that's the butt lead. And then here is kind of using core. So you're using your sides, you're using your abs, you're using your back, right? So, and of course, that is the look that you're getting, right? So you're shifting your weight, and you're using that. And then, of course, if you wanted to, you can use a little rotation. But be careful here because we don't want to get into a full figure 8 like we would in ballroom, like American-style rumba or international for that matter. So, you know, bachata really is kind of a dance that it's in a Latin category all its own, really. Okay, so even different than salsa, merengue especially. It has some kind of commonalities with samba, but you have to be careful because, see, samba has the contraction with the compression. And really, bachata's compression is quite consistent. Even in the hip here, even though I'm kind of straightening, it's still kind of meant to have that swinging action. So if I'm doing 1, 2, 3, and swing, you see? It's swing. It's not like ba, ba, ba. See, with samba, there's a continuous kind of up and down compression. Okay, I digress a little bit. We did one more thing, and that was to kind of continue to play with the playing of the timing. So in our bachata line dance, we had that little syncopation at the end, and that's a great way to start playing more with your timing. And Joan had covered a lot of cool rhythmic variations in bachata a couple months back when he worked with you guys. So all I did was I took back the basic bachata syncopation. So it's again using our basic pattern and talking about the syncopation of it. So I'm going to show you again facing you. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4. Usually it's just kind of the hold or the tap on 4. But in this case, we're going to syncopate 3 and, or 4 and. Kind of like a cha-cha basically. So it would be 1, 2, 3, 4 and. You see, so we still end up with that free foot, but we've now done a little double change. 1, 2, 3, 4 and 1, 2, 3, 4 and 1, 2, 3. Step and side, together, side and change. 1, 2, 3 and change. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. Ba ba. Okay. So again from the side here, and I'll just start with my right foot for a change. But normally we go 1, 2, 3, 4. So we've got lots of time to hit there. 5, 6, 7, 8. But we're going to split 4 in half so we can add 2 movements there. 1, 2, 3, 4, and. See? And we still free up the left foot. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 1, 2, 3, 4, and 1, 2, 3, 4, and 1, 2, 3, 4, and. See how I'm staying low? So that my 4 and, I need rotation in order to stay there. It is not like cha-cha 4 and, where you're going to get that change. It's a different dance. So we really want to be cognizant of that, okay? So that is the basic with syncopation. And yes, there's one more thing. We dressed it up a little bit. So a little different way of stylizing it. Again, I'll do it from the front first. Where we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, and. So now we're just kind of playing with the shape. 1, 2, 3, 4, and. So instead of 4 and, we're stepping and shifting. Again, be careful it doesn't start to look like samba. That's not what we're aiming for. We're just doing a little boop, boop, a little ba, 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 yeah. 2, 3, and 4, oh. 2, 3, and 4, oh. 2, 3, and 4. See? Continuous compression, lots of rounded actions, okay? So, again, this video is just designed so that you can stop, you can pause, you can reference it, just showing you the breakdown. Of course, once you do this with music, it's going to feel completely different because it's going to add an extra pep there. So, with the left foot, we have 1, 2, 3, and 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. So, side, together, side, cross, shift, side, together, side, cross, shift. And notice the cross is not big. Side, together, side. The shift is just, the cross is just slightly behind because the shift maybe will be a bit more dramatic. Side, cross, sorry. Side, together, side, cross, shift. 1, 2, 3, and 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. 1, 2, 3 and 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. Okay, something to keep in mind, or an important note, I should say. You would not really be doing this in a closed dance position, okay? You might, as a gentleman, because you're dancing in quite close contact, the gentleman may do something, ba, 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 right? He will not be able to bring his feet together because you guys will, usually you're in offset light body contact, so it's not generally a timing that's used very often in closed dance position, unless, of course, he's just keeping it here. Most especially if you're going to do that stylization of cross, step, across, right? This is done generally when you're doing things side by side, maybe you're freestyling, you're facing each other in a part position, or even if the gentleman has the lady in a two-hand hold, maybe doing a little playing around, maybe some swivels, and then you're just doing some basic action, you will see that happening a lot in that situation. But you won't see it happening in the closed bachata dance position. There's just no room, right? And you'd be stepping on each other and kicking each other in the shin, and it'd be a whole thing. So, lots of examples we worked on to basically touch on basic bachata stylization, the swiveling action. So we had cross swivels, and we had outside swivels, which you will see a lot as you get a bit fancier in the dance. And then most importantly is the playing of the timing. So we're kind of getting into splitting up the rhythm a little bit more and being more playful with it, which of course comes with adding some syncopations, and a lot of times also with halftime, right? So in the sequence, in the bachata sequence we do, so you'll see that we go 1, 2, 3, 4. So 1, 2, 3. So that's half time. We're taking half the number of steps in the regular time we would do. So you see playing with the rhythm kind of going up, like using syncopations and increasing the amount of movements, which will seem like it's fast. Now remember that rhythm and tempo are two different things. And then you've got less movements and taking your time more, which may make it seem like it's slower. But again, that's the beauty of playing with your timing. And I think bachata and a dance like rumba too are really fantastic to work on these types of ideas, because they're generally not super fast to begin with, and you have the time to play with it and kind of get a little bit deeper in there. Okay, so that's everything that we covered in our first July bachata class. This class was held yesterday, Monday, July the 6th. And hopefully you find this video really useful and a great little tool for reference, okay? And of course, if you have any questions, you know, just ask away. You can email me, or just ask in the next class, okay? So, thank you so much. Hope this was helpful, and we'll see you guys in the next session.